Going on, family? This mental stimulant, I'm coming through for a moment. This is going to be very brief. I'm not on camera because, as usual, I'm moving around. But I wanted to revisit something that is very important, that I see and encounter so much with adult individuals. And it's something that I had to visit with myself before. Sometimes we experience things that as children, that we shouldn't experience. You know, there's a lot of strongholds on our family sometimes, and no one seems to be strong enough to migrate away from the cycle. You know what I'm saying? And I'm going to give some examples. And this is also how generational curses flourish in a family unit. I just want to show you what they look like, right? Me, as a female woman, I think I said before, about the absence of a father, and I realized later on that the juvenile me that wasn't mature yet, that didn't have life experience yet, I pretty much went along with what I thought was the way that I was supposed to conduct myself. I was searching for what I seen in the home, even though what I seen in the home was not proper, it was not healthy, it was not loving, it was a facade, if you ask me. But I thought that my worth was determined by being in a family unit, having a spouse or a partner, etc., etc. So this is what I naturally sought out, you know. I watched my mom experience things in life from abuse, neglect, um, different things that negatively affected her emotionally and even mentally. As a child watching these things go on, it's it becomes your reality to where you're living through the same experiences that the parent is. So if you're watching your parent be abused, mistreated, and have conflict emotionally, then as a child, you'll soak that up and that will become normal for you, even though it's very dysfunctional and toxic. But if you have nothing to weigh it up against, you don't know the difference. So, for a female to watch her parent be abused, the absence of a proper father in her life, quite naturally, she's going to seek out male counterparts that resemble what she has seen. Doesn't matter if it was healthy or not. Children mimic their parents, they model their life after their parents. And sometimes when we experience things like molestation and abuse and things of this nature as children, it can go so many ways, but it tends to either go to a person that's hypersexual, um, abusive to themselves as far as the utilization of drugs to numb and cope with life. But I want to give you a higher perspective of all this, you know, and I want to really acknowledge that these things affect children emotionally, mentally, um, when they go out in the world and how they deal with others. Their upbringing is a direct reflection of who they are until they gain wisdom and healing and things of that nature. But if they don't have a blueprint, how can they heal? And most people don't. Most people, one, don't like therapy because people equate that to, if you going to see a therapist, you got to be crazy, etc., etc. And that's not the truth for some. I think some people are mentally stronger than others to where they need that therapy. They need an outside person to hash things out with that is not directly connected to the situation to give a different perspective. And some others, they take it to God and they have a better outcome with leaning heavily upon the Creator. But when you have had negative things happen in your life, you feel like you didn't have the proper upbringing or the same resources as your peers, it affects you. It affects you when you go out into the world and deal with others. Sometimes it can make you a people pleaser where your first priority is being accepted, especially if in the home where you feel like you was unseen, your voice was unheard. You were simply a fixture, a accessory, so to speak. You have to, despite what you have gone through, you have to elevate out of that. Because if your mom, your dad, whoever has had a bad life experience and made a whole bunch of bad decisions from your perspective, made bad decisions that you feel has negatively affected your life, like maybe you had a parent that was promiscuous, a drug addict, a thief, etc. And of course, all of those traits are going to bring negativity into the home. Of course, the child is going to be affected. But as I said before, none of us was given a handbook at how to do life. Different things that we have been faced with molds us one way or the other. Now, if you're constantly facing blockages in your life and things don't go the right way, we should spend time with ourselves and really deal with ourselves. Because a lot of time we be blocking ourselves by holding on to negative emotions, keeping our chakras all out of balance, unable to think clearly and rationally, and what do they say? Most times, hurt people hurt people. When you don't heal and you don't address the hurt that you experience, especially if you was unseen and unheard and you didn't have a voice to speak up for yourself, you will harbor that resentment and hold on to it and take that type of attitude out into the world when you deal with others. For example, if you were a young boy and you watch your mom have this guy, this guy, this guy, this guy, in and out, in and out, in and out. Most adults think that children don't understand. But that little boy will acquire resentment towards his mother because of how she is viewed. The embarrassment of it. To where, he will take a negative view on women in general. Meaning when he go out into the world and he deal with women, he will be distrustful of them, mean, you know, um, opportunist to where he will only deal with women the way he can get something from her. But it would never be with the end result being in love. Because in this state, he doesn't know love. It's not shown to him. And if she got different guys in and out, some of them possibly could be handsy and aggressive. And when he watches these things, he mimics it out in the world with other women. You can see the type. These grown men that grow up and their only way to express themselves is to hit women, mistreat them. They real nasty towards them. And it's a reflection on the maternal figure in their life. There is something that is not well within that dynamic that causes him to be that way. Maybe he couldn't speak up for himself, or he felt like he wasn't protected, he wasn't provided for, whatever the case is. When you bury those emotions inside yourself and you just grow up, you become a grown child, still holding on what mommy said, what mommy did, what mommy didn't do, what mommy didn't say. Sometimes a lot of adults is walking around because they never had a parental figure to say, yo, I love you. I have your back. Most parents sometimes are leading such chaotic lives to where they don't have the energy, the mental capacity to really deal with their children. They're dealing with their own hurts, their own pains, along with having to rear children. So, of course, it's going to be chaos. They're trying to figure it out just like when we become adults, we're trying to figure it out. That's even more reason for you to look back and give those parental figures in your life some grace. Nobody out here is perfect. Most people, when they have kids, they don't have the slightest idea what they're doing. They don't even know what they're doing with their own life. Because most times we mimic our lives after people that didn't have a clue either. The blind leading the blind. And then we go on to have children, and the cycle just keep repeating and repeating and repeating. I have seen 50, 60-year-old adults that haven't spoke to their parents in years for some falling out, not being seen, not being able to express themselves. To most time the parents leave this realm and it ain't never got straight. So then what? When you can't sit down with that parent and say, look, this really bothered me. And I know a lot of parents are not going to be forthcoming. They're not going to be open to you telling them what you felt they did wrong towards you. But you have a voice. You have to speak up for yourself. Parents have to open up the lines of communication to their children to allow their children to express themselves. It's very important. That's why you got so many people bitter, angry, harboring resentment. Life they feel is in the toilet. If you take a deep look, it all starts from childhood. It always starts from childhood. But I want you to give your parents some grace, man. I had a parent that for a long time I was resentful of because I felt like I wasn't given the proper guidance and a proper start to have a healthy, effective life. And I blame my parental guidance because I felt like if you guys had been more responsible when having children and all of these things, I could have had a better start. But after a while, that didn't help me feeling like that and holding on to that. All of those things that I wanted to discuss that I never said a word about, I just swallowed real hard and just accepted it, which is what most children do with their parents. Even when they become teenagers, even when they become adults, everybody just act like certain things didn't take place. Some people were so embarrassed, they just rather act like it didn't occur because it looks negatively onto them. Well, we shouldn't be bothered with what looks negative on a parent. This is your life. If you don't express yourself and get that stuff off of your chest, you're going to be out here in this world hateful, mean, and your life is not going to get any better. Because no matter how much you say, I don't care about that anymore, I don't care about it, most times people always do. Anytime you can ask somebody about their relationship with one of the parents that they don't get along, they can tell you detail for detail why they're mad. But they never discussed it. Maybe because the parent was unable to really hear them or too embarrassed to hear them. Either way, we can't hold ourselves accountable for their mistakes. So why are you going to go on with your life and harbor that resentment to where it causes you to negatively deal with others? That's not helping you or serving you. It's in your way. It's a blockage. When you have those type of blockages, nothing can move forward. You'll just be going through life and just existing, not happy, not living. You have to sit with yourself. You have to give that child the reassurance that they weren't never given by their parental figures. We can't hold on to what mom did or what she didn't do, what dad did or he didn't do. They did the best they could with what they thought was the right thing, whatever that may be. Even if they was just careless and ain't care. You cannot carry that with you. It's going to negatively affect you. It's going to hurt you. It's going to hurt your family, your children. And the cycle is going to continue and continue and continue until you make peace with, okay, I understand. Especially when you have kids. It's a shame that people have kids and then they look and say, oh, I see why this and why that. You know, nobody was given a handbook, and we make mistakes that we got to live with and live through. But time is going forward, not backwards. You cannot go back and change what has already occurred. You have to move forward. We have to let go of this resentment that we have towards our parents, for real. Because it's too many of us 30, 40, 50, 60 years old. We got all these men that are aggressive, don't relate to women properly, don't even really know what to do with women outside of the bedroom. And most times it's not their fault. It only becomes their fault once they become an adult and they don't deal with those emotions. You should not be 30, 40, 50 years old still talking about what mommy did, daddy did. You're grown. You're responsible for yourself now. Sometimes all it takes is saying, you know what? I don't know what they were going through in their life. I was a child. I don't know why they made the moves they did, but I can't change their decisions. And I'm not going to let that drag me down and be like, well, I don't deal with my mama, I don't deal with my daddy. Come on. If anything, they got you here. And I know negative people will say, well, that wasn't a prize. I feel like that at times, but I also understand that I'm here for a reason. It's not a mistake that I'm here. The Creator put me here for a reason. And as harsh as it may seem to a lot of people, the things that you go through, you were supposed to go through for a reason. One, because you were strong enough. God deemed you strong enough to deal with it and endure it. And God may have also needed to use you as an example of what the next person can get through. Because we all share similar experiences. They don't be the exact, but we share similar experiences. Everybody got an alcoholic. Everybody got a drug addict. Everybody got a thief. Everybody got a horse in their family. Everybody got all of this, whether they want to be honest or not. But despite all that, that don't make you your own person. You are responsible for how you conduct yourself, how you raise your children. If you were raised like this, then that's your example. I'm not raising my children like that. I'm going to be vocal with my children. I'm going to create the space for my children to express themselves when they feel in any type of way. I couldn't speak up for myself. I'm going to make sure that I don't do that with my children. I wasn't felt like I was seen. My parents weren't active in my life. Okay, then make sure your children feel seen. Make sure you're active in their life. I know the world is hard. We got to work. We got to provide and all this stuff. But them children didn't ask to be here. The world is messed up enough. Look around. There's no need in introducing innocent children to live a life where they'll be miserable. All you have to do is try. You know the difference between right and wrong. Teach your children the difference between right and wrong. Properly correct them. Instead of getting upset and yelling at them, try talking to them. Because most times when you yell at a child, they're not listening to you. Their ears shut off. It's the approach. Think about it. If somebody yelling in your face, is you going to be listening to them? No, you're not. You're probably going to want to fight. These children with behavioral problems, most times it's emotional. They're acting out of emotion because they don't know how to express themselves. And because the parents are already frustrated and don't have the capacity to deal with it, they lash out, they yell, get out my face, go do anything but be in my face. No. Man, hug your children sometimes. When they leave in their house to go to school, you don't know if your child coming back. Show that child the love, then show them that they are loved. And like I said, our parents a lot of times messed up. And we criticize them. We may not say it to them, but we criticize them. And until you have children, you're not going to see the other side of the coin. Not unless you're just wise and you sit with yourself, that little kid in you, and you heal what hurt you, whether it be a person or action. That's all I wanted to say, guys. We gotta get out of this. Mommy did, daddy did, man. You'll be surprised the things that they had to go through in childhood. You know what I'm saying? You gotta give them a little bit of grace, man. It doesn't do anybody any service by being hateful, resentful, and vindictive. Forgive them people and let that go, man. So you can move forward. You can't move forward bottling all that stuff up. And if anybody mistreated you, if anybody abused you, if anybody violated you, I'm here to tell you that I'm genuinely sorry. You know, because don't know children deserve what they go through, man. We go through so much as children. And a lot of us are unprotected at times. But even in those cases, it's not your fault. Your fault is your own actions and holding on to that bitterness and that anger. Let it go so you can heal, so your life can progress, so you can become wiser, so you can evolve. I love you so much, y'all. Have a great day. Peace.